Hello, here we are again with Mookie Tenembaum. We are, as usually, exploring his philosophy, his disillusionism, his misalgic theory. We are doing now these weekly longer videos on which we do not try to define abstract concepts or introduce aspects of his system, but rather to analyze the news as they happen, to keep track of current events. Of course, not as journalists, which we are not, but from a philosophical point of view, trying to analyze what happens as it happens. We are now around mid-November 2020. This is amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, and we are going to focus now into a philosophical analysis of all this news we hear around us about the new vaccines, their development, their testing, and in some cases already their distribution amongst the population. So we are going to ask Mookie to tell us about vaccines for the COVID-19 pandemic, but of course from a philosophical point of view.
Well, we are just, I was going to speak about vaccines, and today we got the news that Pfizer has announced that their vaccine appears to be 90% effective. Let me explain briefly what they are talking about so we can understand each other. Basically, what they're saying is they have inoculated 40,000 people. 20,000 people they inoculated with the vaccine, and the other 20,000 they inoculated them with a placebo, just saline water, nothing. And what happens, and then they allow people to just go into the wild, because if you really want to know if a vaccine works, it's very simple. You give those 40,000, all of them, you give them corona, and you see how they react. That is not permitted, that is not impossible, that should not be done. That would be the perfect way to know if that's the truth. So they let them go into the wild. And they did it in 5 different countries, and the results that are in now are only on half of the trial, and they have discovered that from the people who got infected, there were 94 people got infected with corona, only about 90%, that's about 85, were the ones that had no vaccines, and the other 10 had a vaccine. So they extrapolated, and they call it a 90% success. It's a number, it's a big number, because everybody expected 50%, even, I mean, with high hopes, at least 50%, that's what they expected. So 90% is also quite a curious number, I must say. It's very unusual, it's unexpected, and I'm sure there will be a lot of people trying to explain. Anyway, the Russians just announced that their vaccine, which has gone no trials, is also 90% effective. I guess that my Coca-Cola Zero drink of yesterday also is 90% effective. We are in a very special kind of world. Now, in addition to this story, I am sure there is a political also outcome will come from this. Trump will probably shout and that Pfizer had done something with the Democrats, and they decided to do it 5 days later. Really, it's 5 days after the elections, the news came out. It's a coincidence or not, I don't care. This is not what we're dealing here, but we're dealing with the vaccines. Now, when you heard why governments are so keen to vaccinate their people, it's not because they are very worried about people's health only. Okay, yeah, I'll be nice. Again, countries, governments are always players, people that hold that a sandwich bag, each one of them, and they have to take care of their own sandwich. But basically, what they want is to restore confidence. I spoke about it in the past, and I'll explain it again to make it clear what I mean by confidence. The economy as we have it today, as we look at it today, before we came into the pandemic, was based on us spending more money than we have. That means spending on credit all the time. Why? Because with that money that we overspend, not only spending, but overspend, with that money, we really give work to about a third, maybe a third of the society, of people who probably would not have worked if you wouldn't buy more shares than you need, or more cars than you need, or more whatever than you need. Take more trips, etc. So what happens after the pandemic? People decided to start saving. They were afraid for the future. People stopped spending. A lot of people have no jobs. All the travel industry, all the restaurants industry was really out of work, and many other people who are depending on those industries too. So they need confidence for them to spend, and it did. So what they did, I spoke about it in one of the other cases. I spoke about the central bank and just printing money endlessly. And the other part was, if we give a vaccine to people, they say, people will have confidence and they will go out again to the street and they will think about the future in which a much calmer heart. Yes, everything is now fine and the vaccine exists. Even if the vaccine still does not exist, the vaccine is coming. That was part of the shots of confidence. So what you get here is really 10% chemical, 90% confidence. But but when they talk about confidence, what are they talking about? They're talking about trust. You see, when I am in a building that is on the 5th floor, I trust many things. I trust that the building was built to withstand my weight. Yes. Same goes for the elevator that brings me in. If I take a plane, well, there's many things that all the turbines are being taken care of, that the technicians went all over the plane, that the oxygen that comes in is enough to breathe, and of course that the pilot knows what he's doing, and a lot of things have to happen when you flying in an aluminum tube 30,000 feet above ground. But do we really trust them? The answer is yes and no. Trust is not something that you do. It's something that happens to you. Why? Because you just neglect. You neglect checking the pilot. You don't go to the pilot and say, "Sir, tell me exactly how you're going to fly this plane. Where did you learn to fly?" That doesn't happen. We don't do these things in life. We just avoid thinking about them. We just simply neglect. We neglect doing things. You could use maybe the verb, I don't know if it exists in English, to obviate. Yes, to make it obvious, to not to think about them. Why? Because if I don't think about them, I can sleepwalk. I remind people, sleepwalking is what we do 95% of the day. Yes, we just go through motions, through running habits, running routines, and that's what we do all day. If in the middle of the routine we are not sure that the person who is driving the plane knows how to fly the plane, you will not be able to sleepwalk. You will be more not able to sleepwalk, I guess. But if the plane suddenly goes into a dive, yes, you will probably stop. When you go to a movie, they say you do suspension of disbelief. Yes. So it is really, suspension of disbelief sounds like something active. No. Every animal does not take care, is not actively thinking about or dealing with anything that is not related to its survival. Nothing. Yes. So if there is a tiger in the ruins in Cambodia, he doesn't care about the ruins in Cambodia. He doesn't see a ruin in Cambodia. He sees prey or water or food or mating. That's what he sees. And there is a program with ifs. Yes, like a computer program, because an animal basically is a computer. When in our case, since we do have the choice to have a choice, we can choose to have a choice, then this is not automatic. Well, no, wrong. It's almost always automatic. We really neglect. We don't take. We don't attend to anything as much as we can. I'll give you an example. I think, Florencio, is that you have a couple and one of them is unfaithful, and there is a saying that the last person to realize he's unfaithful is his mate, his or her mate. Yes. The truth is that the reason is because that person is trying not to suffer. Because if he would be thinking all the time, is he or is she being faithful? You start only thinking about it, you suffer. Yes. What do you think about this proposal of a concept?
First, let me try to sum up, just in case I'm getting it wrong. But what I think you're saying is that we need trust. We need a trustworthy vaccine in this case of COVID, but in general, I guess we need trust in order not to mind threats and not to mind sources of sufferings, of which fear alone would make life unbearable, as you describe it. But this not minding is not an action. It's not something that we do. Trusting is too active, too proactive a verb. Maybe it's an omission more than an action, what you are describing. And I understand how distraction plays a part in this, but what I think you're describing as core is just, I keep coming back to this saying in English, ignorance is bliss. Bliss might be too much for us in this series of discussions, but at least in ignorance, there is no suffering. There is no threat. There is no fear. No bliss needed. That's good enough from our point of view, I guess. Is this what you are saying? That we are willing, we are hoping for a vaccine because we want to be able to ignore. We want to be able not to mind.
I don't think this happens to you as an individual. I think that's the plan. They have seen that. Listen, when you get the flu shot, yes, it's not every day you go, I didn't get the flu. Great. Next day, I didn't get it. That doesn't happen. The whole idea of getting the shot is not to think about the flu. Okay? The whole idea of having savings is not to think, what am I going to do when I run out of money? I mean, we do this all the time, but we don't think about it. You'd call it an omission, and I think it's the perfect word. We keep omitting, but omitting is not willful. When I want to go to sleep, I may want to go to sleep. I'll go into bed. I'll probably put my pajamas, and I will read a book and hope to fall asleep. I can't voluntarily. I don't have the will. Doesn't matter how much will I have to fall asleep. Something as simple as fall asleep. Same thing in sleepwalking. Yes, you cannot decide to sleepwalk. This happens to you. So to omit is also something that happens to you as an animal. Animals omit. So you just continue to omit as much as you can, but you don't decide to omit, because if you decide to omit, you're not omitting. I know it's difficult because you see, you don't experience omission. As you don't experience sleeping. You just don't experience sleeping. Sleeping happens to you. So it is really outside of the realm of the will, yes, of the free will, or free or otherwise, any will. You cannot will it. Yes, the whole idea of will, the ethics of will, are useless. You want to sleep. Insomnia is one of the. There is a pandemic of insomnia in the world, and that means people cannot fall asleep. They have to take a pill to fall asleep, but they themselves, you cannot will yourself into that. There are certain things you cannot will, and I can even mention an erection. The erection is not willful, and that's an example. But I think sleeping is enough. So now, if I cannot will it, the omission happens to me. So I will do anything. My behavior will be that it will allow me to continue to omit as much as I can. And I have to say that omitters, the more a person is an omitter, the more the person omits, the more he or she can sleepwalk. And when she sleepwalks, she's not suffering. And remember, misalgia, this is what we do, try not to suffer. But we don't try. When I say try not to suffer, we talk about a will. There is no will. It's just animal. We do it as an animal. We try not to suffer, but we don't try on a will side, but on an automatic side. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yes, of course. Now, what I'm thinking is the reverse of this description you are making is obviously painful. When we think about paranoid people, when we think about people who are obsessed, minding about potential risks and fearing this or that, and taking care of very little details, we rapidly see in that an unbearable life, terrible suffering. So I guess we just have to turn that upside down to see what you are describing. My question now is, does this mean that the most important part of the coming vaccines, they are now trying and distributing, is not so much the physical immunity against the virus that, as you say, might be 50%, 90%, something in between those numbers, but rather the, I would say, symbolic immunity to fear, to apprehension and worries that being vaccinated will bring to most of us.
But yes, and I can give you another example that I think everybody knows: insurance. I mean, when you take insurance, and you know, why do you take insurance? So I don't have to think about it. You know, there is a stats. I have to find the book, something I read, and it probably it runs that from the 20th century, at the beginning of the 20th century. As soon as the fire insurance began, there were more fires. People stopped taking care of it's true. What I'm trying to say is that you do it so you don't ask yourself every day, is my house going to burn? Am I going to become a destitute because my house will burn? That's what about the fire insurance is. It's not that your house will never be on fire. Yes, or even the ridiculous. As a disillusionist, of course, life insurance. That's one of the most stupid things that you can do if you're a disillusionist. You're going to be dead. There is no life insurance. You're not going to enjoy that. But for your children, knowing that they have life insurance when you die, that's it. That allows them also not to be worried. So to unworry, this is the whole thing. No, to unworry. For that you have to omit. So you can prepare yourself to allow yourself to omit. It's like preparing the bed to go to sleep. That doesn't mean you're going to sleep, but at least you give all the necessary, because I'm sure that people have an insurance against a fire, and they keep all the time looking if the house is not on fire. Or very common, people with the gas now, thinking that they forgot to they left the cooking gas valve,
the propane open,
and the propane open, yes, and they come 10 times in a day to see if it's closed. Those people, as you say, those obsessive people, they're having their life is not fun. They have not they don't have the omission capability that we do. And finally, not finally, but I want to give an example with us. You see, our videos have no distraction value. I mean, I'm sure some people may see them as distraction, but most of the people, when they listen to this, they listen to think about it. So many people, I'm sure, they've seen our videos and they never came back to see them again. Why? Because they don't want to be conscious of all the things we talk about, which most cases are not really very happy, and we don't give any solutions, because disillusionism is not about giving solutions. It's about describing a certain fact, and those exact facts are the one that makes people suffer. They suffer too, because there is a suffering to know yourself that you're going to suffer. The advance of suffering. Yes, you suffer twice, before and after, and not watching the videos, at least this source of suffering is closed. So that's the reason we'll never be like the big influencers, yes, because influencers do that. What they do it to distract, so people can deal with other things instead of dealing with things that really can make them personally suffer. And this is what disillusionism cannot solve. I myself, to me, knowledge is a way of not to suffer. That's how I chose. This is my misalgic way, but most people will not. And so this is part of the issue. The issue is it really invades into my own realm as a philosopher.
Let's hope that's the reason why millions of people are not watching us. No, not because we are ugly, not because we are unbearable, just because we would make them think, and that would prevent them from sleepwalking.
But their strategy, let me explain. Their strategy is great. I mean, you understand, it's not a critique. Oh, no. They're right. If that makes them suffer, they should not watch our videos. Absolutely. That's a very good misalgic strategy.
Very well. We shall carry on with those who do want to watch the videos. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed the video, please like it, comment and subscribe.